Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Your host, Caroline Offenstein here. And today we have a very special guest, Sarah V, with us. So, for a little bit of her background, for the past 10 years, Sarah has been transforming women's lives, including her own. The best-selling author of the beloved children's book, Let Your Inner Golden Sparkle Shine, Sarah's new release, I Wish I'd Known, is a transformational memoir of her healing. Through her experience, she guides readers through transformational tools crucial to their own healing journeys. Sarah has become an internationally sought-out energy healer, meditation guide, and spiritual mentor, helping women and men break the cycle of their ancestral traumas so that they can live abundant, joyful, and peaceful lives. Thank you so much for being here,
Yes.
Sarah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I always love to listen to that because it's good to have it come from somebody else's voice and not your own. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I really want to get into this topic of the cycle of ancestral trauma and how to break that cycle because that's something we've never talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
heard just like bits and pieces of that language throughout my own spiritual journey. So I
Yes.
would love if you could just start with like, what does that mean? Like, what is ancestral trauma?
Oh gosh, and I didn't even think it was a thing. Like when I was, I've really been on, I mean, all my life I've been, trying to, be better, to understand myself, be connected to myself. And like I said, I didn't even know that it's actually called intergenerational trauma healing. And I didn't even know it was a thing. But now that I'm kind of on the other side, it like, oh, right, I get it now. So I'll just kind of give it, other than spending the entire time on, because I could. But intergenerational trauma, it kind of refers to trauma that's been passed down from our descendants. And just to kind of go back a little bit, in my book, I Wish I'd Known, the epigenetics chapter 2, we talk about what is that, and what it is, and one of the quotes or the research that I did, I couldn't believe it, is that we actually hold on to 3 generations of unhealed pain and trauma. So it's not just from our parents, but it can be, your grandparents and then their parents. So it goes really far back. And the reason why it exists is because a lot of the descendants aren't healing themselves. So what we're actually doing is we're holding on to the energy of the trauma, because remember, everything is energy that is in our bodies. And so that energy we hold on to in our DNA. And the DNA, it goes into the scientific. I am not a scientist. I'm not just, but I am a woman who has, just felt so uncomfortable in her own body because it was really my mother's energy that I, was holding on to. And usually it's the parent in your family who is kind of the dominant one that you tend to hold on to more. You copy their behavior, you listen to their language, and therefore you think that's who you are. And this is why I really feel like it's so challenging to heal ourselves, to manifest what we want in our lives, because we have the energy of somebody else's past that they are either too afraid to face, that they don't want to heal. In my case, my mother was English, and so the only way we healed ourselves is by drinking hot tea. Because anytime I had anything emotional come up, she'd be like, "Oh, Sarah, have a cup of tea. You're fine." So I basically healed what was just so uncomfortable for me by by drinking tea. So obviously we know that that's not good. I mean, I still have tea in the afternoon, but it's not about healing myself. So this is what happens. So I really feel as if I am I'm about 95% being, flowing in my own energy connected to my true self. And I see it all the time. Like people are like, why can't I let go? Why can't I manifest the most beautiful, abundant, happy, joyful life? Is because we're still connected to, the intergenerational trauma from our past. But I could talk about it for hours. But
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's a good
if
intro.
that
And so, how does that happen? Like, is it subconsciously we're taking on our caregiver's energy and the energy that they carry? Or is it
yeah.
like you mentioned
So
epigenetics
so
too? Yeah.
yeah. So our DNA is connecting to the cells, the genes of their trauma. That there's so many studies, from Holocaust survivors and then their grandchildren, how they've repeated similar patterns. Same with the Armenian genocide. And it's I don't, like I said, I'm not a scientist, but what I do understand is how similar patterns of my mom, especially about like scarcity and how, relationship with money, or how the worth of, what they feel about themselves. This is what we repeat. I don't know the scientific facts and all the genes and all that, those details. But what I do know is that what we do is we repeat the same patterns energetically of what our descent, our ancestors or our parents mostly, have been holding on to. So if you don't heal, it's really difficult to break the cycles. We continue the same patterns over and over again. And if I hadn't healed myself in such a deep way, I would still be repeating the same patterns as my mom, mostly my mother and my father, did as well.
And that does, what you said just there made me think of one study that I know that's on this topic, which it was either rats or mice. And
Yes.
the scientists had one generation and they were
Mm-hmm.
blinking, I think, a red light and then shocking the
Yes.
mice or inflicting pain in some
Oh,
way.
that's so funny. Yes.
Yeah, and then I
Yes.
think it was, I think this is
Yeah.
maybe where your three generation number comes from, because
Yeah.
I think it was still three generations later, the rats still
Exactly.
reacted to the red light thinking
Right.
they were
And
going to be
even,
hurt.
well, so the study, then it's probably the same study, or, one of the thousands they've done on mice. But the one I heard is that it was the parents of the babies. So they would get, first there would be an odor that would go into the cage. And then when the mice smelled that odor, they would shock them. The other cage was the babies from those shocked mice, and they were, the smell would come up, but they would not be shocked, but they would still react
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same way. So it is all the DNA and the genes of the offspring, still feels the traumatic events. Now, our parents hopefully are not being, shocked and, by electric current, but trauma is trauma. Trauma doesn't necessarily have to be, violent, sexual trauma or physical trauma. Trauma can actually be, emotional, interpretation of something. I know mine was very an emotional trauma, but to somebody else, now I look back on it and it's like, oh yeah, I mean, it was back when I thought it was trauma. It was very damaging to me, and it was the same trauma that my mother had experienced in her life. The
Mm-hmm.
same kind of emotional trauma that she experienced as a child was passed on to me.
Yeah.
So I have to say that I have been, the cycle breaker in my whole lineage, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that brings me to another question. So, how do we start to become aware of some of these patterns. Because I know, like, for
I
me,
love
I'll
that.
be like, oh my
Yes.
God, I just reacted in that situation like my dad did. So maybe there's like some really simple situations like that. But how
Yeah.
else can we be aware of, like, this isn't even me? Like, I'm
Yeah.
repeating something.
Right, right. I love that. I love that question because, you know, and we think it's something incredibly complicated, but to begin with it, we need to get quiet and become aware of our thoughts, which thoughts are ours, which ones feel good and feel in flow, and then which thoughts just don't really align. And it is just a feeling that we feel in our body. So I would definitely say meditation is the first step. Our thoughts, and when, our thoughts are patterns that will show up, and then the patterns become our habits. And this is why it's really difficult to change a habit. And it doesn't matter whether it's about, eating better or wanting to exercise more. It's a pattern that your thoughts have created. So when we don't even know what these thoughts are, we don't know what to change. And so for me, I when I started this whole journey, I you worked up to meditating an hour and a half every single day, just sitting there,
Wow.
just being aware, just understanding, or like, oh, there's an energetic, I feel something in my body. What is that? And then you trace it back. Okay, well, what am I thinking? And it's like, oh, I'm thinking like I can't do that, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not feeling confident, or whatever. So it is all, really, it really begins with our thoughts. And sometimes, and I know that I picked up a lot of the thoughts that my mother would say to herself, and the behaviors that she would not do for her. She never took care of herself. She was always busy, always doing. And, this generation is all, not all, but is very validated by what we do rather than, whether we're just being. That's not enough. We've got to keep doing. And so we go faster and faster, and we think, there's 70,000 thoughts every single day that we think in our brain. So no wonder nobody knows, like, well, I don't know, is that right? And it's just this process. And getting quiet is when I'm coaching I call them my no matter what women, that they will do no matter what to heal themselves. This is what we start with. Some of them have never even meditated 5 minutes in their life, and they'll say, oh, I don't have time to meditate. Well, actually, those are the people that actually need the meditation the most. So I think it is meditation, meditation, meditation to start understanding, what are my thoughts that create the patterns that then are the habits that we, identify with.
Yeah. And I'll just add a note to that because I've had a lot of clients ask me, like, I can do my morning routine, I can raise my vibration or whatever it may be in the morning, but then whenever
Mm-hmm.
the in the moment situation happens is when there's more struggle. And I just want to say that that's really, really normal. The point of
Mm-hmm.
still having this quiet time, having this time of building awareness of your thoughts, having this time in stillness is like working out so that you stay healthy enough to play with your kids. Or it's like working out so that you can carry heavy bags of
Mm.
groceries, right? So
Yeah.
it's where you're putting in the effort in that morning time, and it will slowly start to translate into those times when you're quote
Yes.
unquote like in the moment. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people expect, oh, if I meditate for 5, 10, 15 minutes every day, I will automatically be aware of these thought patterns and automatically
Right.
change them. But it's a little
Mm.
bit more of that like journey
Mm-hmm.
and that transformation
Yes.
time in itself.
Right. Exactly. And our society, I think we're so impatient, and we want everything to happen. I had a client come to me to start working with me, and she said, how long is this going to take? And it's just like, I have no idea. Like, I want it. I'm always like, bring it on. Like, let me know. I want to understand. Now I have so many tools that I know what to do when I'm feeling a little bit energetically out of alignment. And, but we just don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to go once they figure it out, but it's a lifelong journey, because you keep going layer by layer, uncovering, what's going to be revealed, which is just, it's like gold.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I think it's very true that we're just very impatient. We want it to happen overnight. It's taken. I'll be 59 on Saturday, the 20th, and it's taken me this long to develop the habits that now I get to change. So now we get to, I'll be 120 by the time I'm done.
Yeah, good reframe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is the process then? Or what are some practices if people are like,
Yeah.
okay, this is, and we can work with an example if you want. I can probably think of an example of
Hmm.
myself. What is the process that someone would take when they're like,
Yeah.
this habit pattern, this isn't me. Like, I'm carrying this on from my
Mm.
father or my
Yeah.
mother, and I
Right.
don't want this anymore. I don't want to carry
Yeah.
this.
Right. So I think, well, obviously, what I just said is the first thing you do is you start learning to accept being quiet, meaning meditating, being able just to be calm, just to allow yourself every day to have, you can start. I always start my no matter what women by 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then, build it up. So meditate, absolutely number one. Then when we are quiet, we are able to understand and start clearing out the old stories, so that you too can be a cycle breaker. But clearing the old stories, it's almost like if you were redecorating a room that you wanted to upgrade. You would not just push all the furniture that you didn't want in the corners and then put your new furniture, in that space. You get to clear it completely out to start with. And it's almost like you're redecorating the room in your head. So you clear it all out, you understand, you write down, you be familiar with the stories, the limitations that, have you've been identifying with, because understanding that every single limitation is something from our past, something that we've been told. And we don't see little kids running around saying, oh, I'm just not enough, or I'm whatever the limitation, I can't do that. Kids are just like, oh, I can do anything, I can fly. So meditating, clearing out the old stories. And then as an energy healer, I think it's really, really important that we start releasing the energy that we've been holding onto in our 7 energy centers and our chakras, because that still can be, blocking, your manifesting power. Third thing, or fourth thing, I think it is you begin creating a new relationship with your inner self, your inner child. I'm kind of an expert at inner child healing, because the inner child, or the inner child energy, is the one who's been holding on to the story from the past. Anytime you have, any heavy energy, like, guilt, resentment, anger, whatever it is, if it's not it's a very low vibration energy, that is your inner child telling you that that's, the repetition and the identity that it wants you to believe in. And that's, that we know that that's false. And once we start creating a new relationship, we get to change our inner language that we're using to ourselves, because when we get quiet and when we start to recognize what our thoughts are, we realize, like, we've been parenting ourselves the exact same way that our parents have been, used to tell us, or used to parent us. Because my, inner language was like, if I did something wrong or made a mistake, I'd be like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? What did you do that for? And that was the same language that I learned as a child. Like my mother would be like, I rode horses all my life. It's all in my book and it's my whole memoir. But I rode horses and I didn't want to do it, but I did it because, she told me to do it. But my inner language, she would always like the one of the last lines in the first chapter is, what is wrong with you? You have a perfectly good horse. So all my life, I've been healing like, what is wrong with me story. So when we start to change the inner language, you change your thoughts, you change your experiences, and then you change what you manifest in your life. It is, I just wish people, my friends have seen the transformation in me, but the inner child healing has like, that was a complete game changer for me, because now when I feel like a low, I don't feel low vibration energy anymore, but there are moments that I do. I literally stop in my tracks and I'm like, okay, what am I saying? And instead of saying, oh God, what is wrong with you? I'll say, it's okay. It's okay. So when your inner language changes, then your thoughts change, and then you change your experiences, and then you start changing what you want to manifest. So that was a complete and utter game changer for me, and that's why I was determined to be a expert on inner child healing, because that is absolutely changed everything for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what inner child, you get the concept of inner child?
Yeah, and I've had an inner child expert, a therapist on the
Oh,
podcast too.
beautiful.
And
Wonderful.
yes,
Hmm.
I love like inner child meditations and all of that work. I've
Yeah.
done a little bit of that with hypnotherapy as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
powerful.
Beautiful.
And I have a
So,
question for
yeah.
you on
Yes,
that
sure.
too.
Hmm.
Like you recalled a specific story about the horseback riding.
Hmm.
I find that I have a really hard time doing that, especially
Hmm.
from when I was really young, like let's say under 8-ish. I have a really
Hmm.
hard time like pulling up specific memories of like, where is this coming from? I can usually say like
Yeah.
it's probably from my dad or my mom or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, is there is there a way to access those memories more easily if we want to, or does that tell you anything?
It's really interesting, because I'm sure I could almost be your mother. I don't know. I don't know how old you are, but it really starts to, when you get a little bit older, it's amazing the things you start remembering, because I didn't even think that I could write a book, but I've just written, a 20 some chapter book, and it's all my memories. It just suddenly just like bubbled up, and I remembered these like details of my childhood. It was the most bizarre thing. But and you don't I mean, and sometimes I can't really remember people, my kids, or my sister and brother were like, do you remember that time? Like, I don't, because I wasn't interpreting it the way that
Yeah.
they were. But I think, to answer your question, I think that, the older you get, it's going to come out. You're going to remember things. But right now, what you could do is just be aware of any sensations that are coming up in your body, because that is what gets to be healed. Is the tightness, the resistance, just that low vibration. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you probably, have felt it, that you have this like resistance, that just yuck feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That is what gets to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
that you
so it's
kind of feel
less
that?
about like the specific details. It's less about like, okay, this is the habit. I picked it up from here at this age or whatever it is, and it's more about noticing those. I feel like they're heavy. Like the
Mm,
heavy energies come over you, and then
yes.
taking a moment to
Yes.
pause, practice that awareness.
Right.
And then
Yes.
would you say the step after that is like choose another thought? Like choose a different
Choose another
mantra?
thought, because
Okay.
I love this saying, like, it's insane to think if you do the same thing or think the same thing, you're going to get a different result. So we have to be vigilant. I mean, vigilant every day, of what are we thinking? Like, what are we thinking that's making us feel heavy, low vibration, insecure, whatever the emotion that comes up. We get to be so vigilant, and that's why when your mind is calm and your body is peaceful, things start. It's like, oh, that doesn't belong here. Oh, that feels uncomfortable. Okay. Anything that feels uncomfortable is something from the past. And I was like, what? Like, oh my God, yes. So
Mm-hmm.
many things are, when you feel uncomfortable, resistant, that's your intuition. Like, something's not right here. What are you going to do about it? And usually you know, um, we pretend it's not there, we ignore it, we go be more busy, we get on our phone or whatever, and so we ignore it. And I was one of those people that whenever I felt uncomfortable, rather than just being with it, I would go shopping, I would over exercise. I was at a point when I was 50, when I turned 50, I'm like, I'm going to be in the best shape I can, because I know that if I am in the best shape, that I'll be happy. That when I'm there, then I'm going to be, I was a when and thener.
Yep.
And I, worked out twice a day. I was eating like a piece of chicken a day. I mean, I got my body got down to 9% body fat. I mean, I was so fit, but I was miserable because that wasn't what needed to be healed. You don't be a when and then, or don't fill yourself. I call them empty fillers that don't, wait for something on the outside to make you happy. First, we get to make ourselves happy, and then everything else is kind of icing on the cake. Not that I would go back and exercise like that anymore, because it was I've always been, in shape, but that was ridiculous. So, or if I had, all the cute outfit, I mean, I still love clothes, but I'm buying them for a different reason now, because I love them, not because I'm trying to feel happier or better by buying things. So yeah. So I don't remember what the initial question was, but
No, that was so good because this
yeah.
podcast, a lot of our listeners are really into health and fitness. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's very important to highlight. And one
Yeah.
thing that's tricky with what you just said, because I agree 1,000%, but it's
Yeah.
one of those things that words can't teach, I feel like. Only experience can teach that, which sucks. Like, I would love to prevent every single person from going through something like that, from, killing
Mm,
themselves in the gym and
mm,
going until burnout
mhm,
with food, and
mhm.
usually along with that developing body image issues and your
Yeah.
relationship with food issues. I would love to prevent
Mhm.
that, but I feel like it's one of those things that experience has to teach you some of those when I get
Yes.
that I'll be happy lessons.
Right. Yes. Oh, I mean, I would say probably throughout my most of my life, I was always trying to find validation from someone else,
Oh
some
yeah.
on the outside, whether it be my trainer or, some man, thinking my body was beautiful or whatever. It was like, oh wow, yeah, wow. And I burned out with that. And, and then I would pick something else. And then if it wasn't exercise, it was buying things or whatever. And it's never ever ever gonna fill yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned that. And let me go back. So, validation, I was looking for validation, but what was on the other side of validation was love. If I felt validated, then I would feel loved. But that is so not true. You have to be it. You have to be love in order to attract it. And, or whatever that is. So I think that, that it's like a hamster on the wheel. If, with exercise, with, oh, if I go on this diet, oh yeah, this is the one, this is it. I'm going to do this. And I did that too. I was on doing, I wasn't really on diets, but I was a vegan. And then I was like, okay, that's going to make me feel better. So it's nothing, just take it from me. at 59, it never, ever, 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 ever will work. Ever.
Oh
I
my
can't say
God.
it enough. It
Yes.
is
Thank
just,
you.
it's never going to work. I mean,
Yeah.
I work out 5 days a week. I've run, half marathons, but I do it because I like it now. I don't do it because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be, better. And I mean, better than somebody else, or everybody's going to say, oh, wow, amazing. And I do it because I don't know if I'm going to do half marathons again. It practically killed me, but I did it last year. And but I love to work out now. I love just being sweaty and just, I love it now, rather than like, okay, I got to go to the gym, because if I don't, then I'm not going to get the validation, and therefore I'm not going to be loved. I have so much love energy inside of me now that everything else is just icing on the cake.
Hmm.
So, I wish I had known that when I was younger, but
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have listened to them anyway. So
True, right? Exactly, because
yeah.
it's one of those things that like words just can't teach that for some reason. It sucks, but it's kind of
Mm-mm.
the reality. And I agree with
Yeah.
you. Like used to be way, way hardcore with my training and with dieting, and now I eat well and I still lift weights, but like you said, it's from that other motivation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you made
Exactly.
me think of something
Yeah.
that's kind of unrelated, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear your thoughts on honesty with yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
what you made me think of is sometimes I'll ask women these questions of like, why are you really doing this? Like, why are you really doing this? And how you went from validation to love. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people get stuck there and don't see that right away.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will tell me, well, but if I, am super intense and I lose 20 pounds and I work out an hour every day and go balls to the wall, I will feel healthier. I want to do it because I'll feel healthier. And I feel like that is superficial in as far as like a
Mm-hmm.
layer standpoint. And it's not true honesty with themselves
No.
often,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
people love
Oh
it when I call them out on
God.
that. No, they usually hate it and they end up not working with me.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But what
Yep.
is, I guess I just
Oh,
would love your thoughts on that and like how to
yeah.
maybe even just be more honest with yourself.
Yeah. So what kind of bubbled up when I was listening to your question is, I at my age now, I feel completely in balance. So balance mind, my mind is balanced, my body, I mean, I have to say I look good for 59 years old. I mean, my body, I mean, I'm seeing like little like, oh, what's that saggy thing? But mind, body, and spirit, when all of those are in balance, there is no need to go balls to the wall. There's no need for you to my body was breaking down. Like when I was 9% body fat, I got shin splints, I got groin pulls, I was just, my body was like, no, that's not, I mean, I'm a very muscular physique. And, I was trying to be really super lean. I mean, I was lean, but my body was like, I was out for 6 months after, because I was running too hard. I was running too fast. I was worrying about, if I didn't look good. So I think what it is it's a mind body spirit balance. And I don't know. I think it's like in the mind is going to tell you, oh, well, you're not going to feel healthy. I am so healthy now. I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. I do go to bed, 9. But my life is so balance right now. I just don't need to do that. Do I work out hard when I work out? Yeah. I mean, I'm the one in the gym just dripping with sweat. I love it. I lift a lot of weights. I do cardio, but I don't know. I think that would be a red flag for me if somebody's like, I gotta go into balls to the wall, and I've got to work out so hard so I feel healthy. But you're not getting all your health from one place in your life. If you are balls to the wall and then you have terrible relationships, or you're not feeling good with your body, no matter what, that's not balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, trying to cover up for something. That would be a total red flag for me.
Yeah. And I really like
Yeah.
how you said mind, body, spirit, because I think that's the key right there. I was listening
Yeah.
to someone talk about how like the ancient Greeks used to cure or like treat illnesses. And I guess one
Hmm.
of the things they would do is the first thing, if you have a bodily ailment, is you go to a temple. Like the first thing
Yeah.
you do is take care of your spirit. And then second is you
Yes.
do mindset work. Like they would actually have people go through placebo protocols
Hmm.
and like crazy
Hmm.
ones with snakes and stuff. The story was like really intense, but even like being bit by a non-poisonous snake and they would tell them it's poisonous and
Hmm.
you are now cured, like they would give them the mental cues
Hmm.
of you are
Hmm.
now healthy. And then lastly, if something was needed, they would go to
Hmm.
like something that you're actually putting into your body and consuming, which is like the total
Exactly.
opposite of how big
Yes.
pharma
Yeah.
runs us
And
now.
yeah, exactly. Yes. But I think that, get kind of relating this to cycle breaking is when you start breaking those voices or the need for validation, because we get the need for validation from something that we are not receiving in our family of origin. So all the habits that we create, because I've done them all. I believe, I'd never had an eating disorder, but I would starve myself, even though I would work out so hard. I wasn't eating enough because it's like if I ate, then I wouldn't get the validation because then my body wouldn't be. I mean, it was this whole process. So, breaking the cycles of your past can really help you to become completely balanced in your mind, body, and spirit. And then you don't have a reason to do that. Like I've broken all these cycles and I just don't have any need to do anything in excess. I'm very balanced. I work out 5 days a week. I run about, 10, 12 miles a week. I'm so balanced, but I run. I'm probably one of the slowest runners, but I run to get it's like I have the greatest downloads of like when I'm
Mm-hmm.
running, I think of things like what I'm going to, write about or what I'm going to say on some of my Zoom calls or whatever. So I now use running as a way of relaxing and my body just responds to that. I haven't had, touch wood, I haven't had any injuries, nothing in the past 3, 4 years and I'm still working out as probably harder now, not harder, but I mean, I work out, 5 days a week. I do Peloton, all the Peloton
Oh
works
yeah,
out and I
yeah.
love it. So yeah, and I had trainers before, but my schedule is so different that I can't be consistent. So it all relates. So the cycle
Mm-hmm.
breaking all relates to, what we want to manifest, whether it's being healthy, being abundant or whatever it is in your life that you desire.
Mm-hmm. And when we were chatting earlier, we talked a little bit about manifestation too.
Yeah.
And I know you have 5 tools, right, that no one ever
Yes.
talks about.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about
You
those?
know, and so I say no one ever talks about because, these are the 5 tools that I use and I did try to manifest without them. And I was one of those, that I'm like, oh, I can thought, when I was, first starting when I doing my mentorship or my coaching training, I would work with really, really high end coaches and I couldn't understand why I couldn't manifest what they were telling me,
Mm-hmm.
they were advertising for me to work on. And the first tip is you get to, you don't want to say have to, you get to be the energy that you desire. So energetically, if you want to have love, if you want to, meet the love of your life, you have to love yourself and you have to be the energy before you receive it. If you want to attract abundance, whatever that means, like financial abundance, whatever it is, you have to feel and be abundant. So that's tip number one is you get to be the energy that you desire. Because otherwise it's like what you're feeling inside and what you desire on the outside need to be in complete alignment.
Mm-hmm.
The second tip is that knowing exactly, I mean, being so precise of exactly what you want. Your desire is, your desire is not coming from comparison, not coming from a lack, but what do you want? And understanding what that looks like for you. Because when if you are kind of vague, well, I want to, I don't know, I want to earn a couple $100,000 or whatever. I mean, the point is you need to be as specific as possible, knowing what you want and understanding, well, why do you want that? Like, what is the reason why you want it? Understanding what your why is. So knowing exactly what you want. Third tip is to learn how to visualize yourself in the desire. Become it before it's actually happened. So this is called a mental rehearsal. I know they use that a lot in sports, but you actually visualize yourself doing or being that person and actually energetically becoming it. Because if your brain does not know the difference between what is actually happening in the future, I mean, what you're visualizing and what is actually happening. So understanding that when you visualize yourself creating whatever it is, like I've been, I'm in my coaching, I visualized myself actually sitting at my desk writing a book, and every day, and not just about all the fanfare that I'm going to be receiving later on when it comes out on the 27th, but actually taking the step of me sitting, visualizing me writing every day, seeing myself with a cup of tea, writing my book. So envision yourself in small steps, but know what the actual end result's going to be. So visualize. The fourth step is radical. I call it radical gratitude. And what radical gratitude is, it's so easy to be grateful for, the things that are going well and the things that, oh, I'm so grateful for my healthy body, which is really good. But are you able to be grateful when things don't work out the way that you want? Are you able to say thank you for, maybe, I don't know, somebody dumps you or whatever in a relationship, or I don't know, I can't even think of a scenario,
Like
but
not
are
getting a
you
job.
not getting the job that you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
or not getting the beautiful home that was for sale? Are you able to be grateful even when things are not working out? Because the energy of gratitude opens us to, your higher power, whatever your belief system is, but it opens you to the universe. So if we're like, oh, well, I'm grateful, and then something that you wanted to happen doesn't happen the way, and then you're like, oh, great, you close back up again. The whole idea of manifesting is to be able to keep yourself open all the time, all day long, so that you're open to divine or your higher power. So radical gratitude is being grateful for when things don't go the way that you want it. And then the last fifth tip on manifesting is learn how to believe that it will happen. And you constantly find the evidence along the path that it's happening. Because immediately our cycle or our patterning is to find, oh, well, yeah, look at that. Look, she's got that, but that's never going to happen to me. But if you constantly know in your soul that it's going to happen, it will. And I've proven that to myself over and over again. And, and the beautiful thing about believing in yourself is that if somebody has what you actually desire, then it's absolutely 100% possible that it can happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
So recapping is be the energy of your desire, know exactly what you want to specifics, visualize yourself in your desire, radical gratitude, and then believe, learn how to really truly believe that it can happen to you. And these are all the steps that, people talk about, but these are the 5 steps that has taken me from where I was. This is the whole bridge to where I am now. And I'm living probably, I mean, other than I have 4 children. When I was raising them, that was, was wonderful, but I felt uncomfortable. I left a 32-year marriage, and now I am transforming myself and living a absolutely beautiful, everything that I've always wanted, I've manifested. This is not tangible things. Well, tangible things too, but I'm more into the way that I've always wanted to feel is how I am right now. And that is beyond anything, because when you're in that energy, anything is possible.
Yeah, I love those tips because those are like probably my 5 most favorite practices. Like those are all my
Yeah.
go-tos.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to share on specificity, I know
Yeah.
like human design sometimes goes into
Mm-hmm.
are you a specific manifester or not? So I would play with that one for our listeners. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't feel good to get like ultra specific, don't worry about the details, but get specific, like you
Mm-hmm.
were saying, with the emotion. Like, but
Yeah.
okay, what do I want? Why? And how does it feel when I get that? Like,
Yeah.
that's such a nice practice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I'm saying, so knowing what you want and understanding the why of why you
Yeah.
want it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because because there's, I wanted to have financial abundance, and there was a story behind that, which was that I didn't feel safe and secure with
Mm,
myself. So I was thinking, oh, well, if I have, I mean, of course, money does, money's an energy, but money does bring you things, I guess. But when I started to feel safe and secure inside of myself, the need for something, it just kind of disappeared. Like, I don't need it. I want it, but I think being specific and understanding the story of why you want it in the first place, and
yes.
understanding, because it's not going to come when there's a need.
Oh, yeah. And that reminds me of, I was listening to Abraham Hicks, like old recordings the other day. And what they
Yeah.
say, they call that like, I want it, but I don't need it. They call that soft and gentle focus. And that's a way I
Mm.
really like thinking of manifesting too, is like, I
Yes.
have this soft, gentle, I want this and I believe it is possible for me and I believe it's coming to me, but I'm not
Mm.
obsessing about it. I'm not freaking out when it doesn't show
Right.
up
You're not,
exactly on the deadline, I
yes.
think. Yeah,
And you're not identifying with, if I have it, then
yes,
I'm going to feel whatever I want.
exactly.
It's just like, yeah, I want it, but I'm not going to feel bad about myself when divine and universe isn't giving it to me right now, because I'll let go of the wheel. Like, you tell me,
Yes.
maybe one of them too is about surrendering
Oh, yeah.
to being led, because as soon as you grip onto something that, oh, I got to have this, because if I don't have it, I'm not going to feel safe and secure, or I'm not going to feel confident, I have to have this, then that's a grip. But as soon as you're like, okay, just tell me what to do. I'm always, every morning, I'm like, tell me what to do. Show me what the opportunity, show me the people that I need to meet. Show me the opportunities that are coming my way. Show me show me what you want me to do. I'm in complete, I mean, I would say there's definitely more work in the surrender for me, because it's so default to go back to,
Oh, yeah.
I want to control it. I want it the way, and it's like, but all of a sudden it's just like, I've like let go. I have like, okay, I'm not going to judge myself. If it's not happening, it's not supposed to. So knowing, yeah, but yeah, knowing exactly what you want, back to your original comment there. But yeah, I just feel like some of those we don't talk about, because we always think about, just the secret. I don't know if that was before your time, but where you just kind of thought about something, and then all of a
Right.
sudden it dropped from the sky,
Right.
which was very misleading. And I think the be the energy that you desire has changed everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I I felt so much love in my life. And now I have a beautiful love relationship that, it's everything. Not that I call him my husband, and we have an absolutely fantastic relationship on the outside. It's just different. But now it's like what I manifested. I call my love my manifested man. Like I manifested him. But because I was feeling that myself, I was able to attract it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so
So,
cool how all these pieces are interwoven. Like we talked about, taking care of your mindset with meditation and awareness, and
hmm
then taking care of your spirit by thinking about these ancestral cycles and breaking the patterns that you don't want to keep carrying on. And then
right.
it definitely carries over into your body and how you feel in your body. And if you feel balanced and healthy, it's like this is how things can all come together.
Yeah, exactly. And going back to the point of, when we feel balanced, when we are not identified by an old limitation, an old story from our past, when we are able just to feel complete inner peace, that is the most powerful magnet that you can be for what you want.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
exactly.
that manifesting magnet. That's what we
Yes.
all become, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's such a perfect note to end on. So, thank you for all
Yes.
of your wisdom today, all of these powerful lessons. I'm
Thank
definitely
you.
going to get consistent again with my morning meditation of just quiet
Oh,
time.
yes.
I've been a little inconsistent lately, so it's a good
Yeah.
reminder for me. And yeah,
Yes.
before you go though, where can
Yeah.
people connect with you and learn more and find your
Oh,
books?
wow. Yes. So my book, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but on the 27th of September, um that's when my book launches, but they can go to books.sarahv.com and vie.com. That's the portal, and there's a beautiful clearing meditation that I give for free. And also I'm having a VIP book launch party on the 27th. But if they don't want to go there, they can just go to sarahv.com. I have all my information there. What else? And then Instagram is Sarah_V_LLC. And then of course Facebook is Sarah V. But this book, I want it to be a movement. I would love to know. There's a little portal that you can go into, and uh, let me know. What do you wish you had known? Because maybe, it's like, wow, that could help somebody else to know. Like, what I wish I had known is that I wasn't a failure. That's what I wish I had known, that there was nothing wrong with me. It was a pattern that I was believing in. So there's a portal there. And then when the books are purchased on the, anytime, there's a beautiful resource of healing. I do sound bowls. There's recipes on there. There's a quiz to see whether you are blocked. And what else? I have a whole uplifting Spotify playlist. So that's what my gift to everybody when the book is purchased. It's going to be available through Amazon, but they can also buy it through books.sarahv.com. Yeah. So this is my
Okay.
push right now. Is my gentle
Right.
push.
Get it out
Is
there.
this is my beautiful book, and there's a lot of like stories that I'm like, I'm basically just telling all. It's a tell all story,
Oh,
of why I started to heal. Yeah.
amazing. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
everyone can go check that out at the end of
Yes.
September. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and everyone, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you know someone in your community who might like this episode, who could benefit from it, definitely share it to them, share it to your social media, and tag us. And thanks for listening.